हेलो।
हाँ हेलो सर।
हाँ नमस्कार जी।
सर कैमरा आपका सर
कैमरा इज नॉट वर्किंग।
नो सर, कैमरा इज नॉट फोकसिंग योर फेस सर.
ये करेक्ट करेक्ट करेक्ट।
Yes, now.
यस, नाउ इट विल डू आई थिंक।
Yes. Good afternoon sir.
हाँ नमस्कार।
And namaskar sir. And good afternoon to all the participants. Sir, this is faculty induction program and we are having some 28 new faculty members from different universities and colleges. And they are all from different streams of study also. And dear friends, today we are fortunate to have Professor Sunil Singh sir, Sunil Kumar Singh sir. He is a faculty member in Faculty of Education, Banaras University. He got his education from BHU and he started his career. He joined BHU as assistant professor. At that time, it was lecturer in the year 1997. He is having a very, what to say, inspiring, motivating career. He is having nearly 100 papers published in different journals. He is having and presented seminar papers more than 70. Then he has published 18 books. He has written more than 20 papers in different edited volume books. Then he has edited proceedings of seminars, more than 4. Then he is managing editor of 3-4 journals in different times. He has developed many courses for his department. He has supervised more than a dozen research scholars, and he has done his PhD from BHU, and he has done DLIT also from BHU. And sir, coincidentally, sir, I was your first batch student. You
Yes,
joined in
yes.
1997, and I did my B.Ed in 97-98 batch. So I
Yes.
belong to your first batch student, and when I contacted you last week for this time, and I told my name, and you recognized me just by my name. It was a big surprise for me, sir. I was not expecting you will be even remembering. So it was a surprise for me. You remembered. I was not an outstanding student. Outstanding students, teachers understand, but I was not an outstanding kind of student. But still, you remember that was a great thing. So, friends, I remember, sir, when I was a student and he was a new teacher in the faculty. At that time, we used to consider him one of the most dynamic and most active teacher in the department. And same thing I found now also. The way he reacted immediately, accepted my invitation, and uh, told me to fix the date and time and topic. Also, he asked me only to give me a topic. So, sir, thanks for your support. And now time is yours, sir. You may make your start your presentation. And friends, sir is going to talk about philosophical foundation of education. So, sir, now time is yours, sir. You may start.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bhartendu. I'm grateful to you and the complete uh, university team for giving me this chance to be here. In fact, I am trying to share this slide. In the beginning, you introduced that you are not an outstanding student, but I know you are an outstanding student. That's why you are there. And being a good student, you are remembering me as a teacher. Uh, Today, as asked by you, I will discuss on the topic philosophical foundations of education and overview. I'm trying to share that PPT, but is it?
Sharing is done, sir. You have to open your PPT now.
Yes. Very correct. Let's try to share it.
You have to open that PPT.
Okay, now I think it is shared.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us start on the topic, and meanwhile, in between, if anybody wants to ask, he or she can ask in between, or if at the end they will like to ask, they can ask at the end. But we'll proceed in an interacting manner in both in Hindi and English. I think they should be comfortable basically in both, or anyone like.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They must be comfortable in both, but
Oh,
more focus on English because there may be
okay.
some who are not. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. PPT is basically in English and very simple. So we'll start with the topic that is philosophical foundations of education, and the initial term is philosophy. So everybody is aware of this term. I don't think that is in academic arena there is anyone who has not heard this word, who has not been using this word, and who is not well uh, acquainted with this word. Still, I will try to discuss it. Philosophy as perceived and discussed by John Dewey, an American pragmatist. Rather, I would like to say that everything which is being practiced these days in throughout the world, and particularly in America, even in India, it is quite related to the thoughts of pragmatic thoughts of John Dewey. So John Dewey, he says that philosophy is a general theory of education. This phrase, I would like to say, itself reflects that whatever we are doing in education, that is because of philosophy. And we can also say that it is the axle, it is pivotal, and without philosophy, it is not possible to proceed in education. If we say that you are proceeding without philosophy, then in fact it is an accident, and it is a very random choice we are doing. So the term philosophy, it is a general theory of education. This is one way of looking at philosophy. And there is another point, that is philosophy is theoretical and is speculative. It means whatever we see, we theorize. Whatever we hear, we theorize. Whatever we can think, we theorize. It means involving all our senses, whatever we do in our life, and then we think and theorize. Therefore, theorization is one basic thing which is required in philosophy. There can be no philosophy without theorization. And what I have just said, you can also correlate that this theorization is not random. This theorization is all based on your sensual experiences, your intellectual comprehension, your way of perceiving, and your way of thinking, and your way of leading yourself. Therefore, philosophy is theoretical as well as it is speculative. It means you can also foresee, you can also look into future, you can also based on your experiences, you can also think and design. That is speculation. Therefore, these two words, philosophy is theoretical and is speculative. You can ask questions to yourself. You can ask questions to your peers, colleagues, family members, or you can also ask questions to the nature itself. So it involves this theorization and speculative bent involves asking questions and then examining factors of reality and experience. There are two different arenas in our life. One is reality and another is experience. Sometimes people are quite confused that what I experience is not real. What is real is not my experience. But these two types of thoughts are contradictory. In fact, what is real has to be experienced, and what is being experienced has to lead towards reality. Therefore, there is no contradiction between these things. Philosophy involves examination of variety of factors and your experiences, your reality, everything around you, and then it leads to what is. Then there is a third aspect of philosophy. Philosophy yields a comprehensive understanding of reality, a world view. What we talked earlier, second point, it is theoretical and speculative. It is also related with this point. That is Rupert C. Laws. He has said philosophy is life at reflective level. We reflect only that which we have experienced. Experience through your senses, experience through your mind, whatever it is. But unless you experience, you cannot reflect. And whatever is reflected is indeed your experience. So, philosophy yields a comprehensive understanding. Comprehensive means in toto understanding. Understanding in totality, understanding in holistic way. It is holistic understanding, it is in toto understanding, and then only it is comprehensive understanding. Therefore, a comprehensive understanding of reality or world around you, or world view, that is the basic task of philosophy. You can also say that whatever we can think, whatever we can experience, and in the way we perceive reality, that is philosophy. So we cannot be away from philosophy. Nobody, in fact, in this universe is away from philosophy. And particularly human beings can never be away from philosophy. Now, so in linguistic terminology, if you say philosophy is love for wisdom, and you cannot seek wisdom, you cannot develop wisdom without perception of reality, without experience of reality. Anybody who is real is wise. Anybody who is wise is always real and experiential. Therefore, philosophy is in fact life, or life comprehended holistically is philosophy. इसीलिए भारतीय परिप्रेक्ष्य में हम ये भी कहते हैं कि दर्शन, दर्शन means to see. To see, you are the person who is going to see. तो दर्शन का तात्पर्य ही यहाँ है देखना. आप अपने चारों तरफ जो चीजें हैं उनको देखें, आप स्वयं अपने आप को देखें, और जो यथार्थ है उस यथार्थ को पहचानें. समग्र रूप से यथार्थ को पहचानना ही दर्शन है, या समग्र यथार्थ ही दर्शन है, या ये भी कहा जा सकता है कि दर्शन समग्र यथार्थ को प्रस्तुत करता है. Therefore, now we see that philosophy is something which leads you to reality, which enables you to realize the real. Now there is another term, and that term is equally popular. Rather, these days, I think it is more popular. That is education. Education is everybody's cup of tea. Anybody around you is ready to educate you, and anybody can give you tips on education. And therefore, anybody, I mean, anybody going on the road, anybody around you, anybody in your vicinity, anybody in your family, anybody in political arena, any businessman, any technocrat, any teacher, any teacher educator, any non-teaching staff, anybody XYZ, he is ready to educate you and give you education. But very simply speaking, education is a process of bringing desirable change in the behavior. This is the simplest form of definition I can say. It is a process of bringing desirable change in the behavior. There are two people and both of them want to bring desirable changes in each other. There can be teacher and a taught. There can be manager and the employee. There can be administrator and the employee. There can be a political person and a commoner. So you can take it to any area. Anybody who wants to bring desirable change in the behavior, that is the process of education. And it has been called a process only because this process, this continuity, this interaction, this communication goes on unless there is negotiation of meaning, or unless you are able to ensure yourself that other person on the other part has changed to some extent as you desired. Therefore, it is a process of bringing desirable change in the behavior, and this behavioral change is obviously reflected. It is reflected in his deeds, it is reflected in his thoughts, and in all walks of life, this is reflected. Now, it is practical. It is practical. It is practical means this is not simply theorizing things, but it is practically finding it in one's behavior. It means it involves activity. There can be no education without any activity. Therefore, experience is always part of education. These days, variety of terms, that is experiential learning, experimental learning, constructivist learning, or activity-based learning. So many words are in use. And we can say that on the whole, education is always activity part of life. Whatever is involving activity, that is education. In fact, telling you specifically, education is not only in the educational campuses, institutional campuses, educational institutions, that is schools or colleges or universities. Every place around you is in the process of educating you, and it is educating you. Therefore, there are different categorizations. They have been said as informal education. There are things of media and other social mechanisms which are trying to interact with you, whether you want or you do not want, and still they have an agenda and they want to influence you, bring a change in you. And that is all non-formal means of education. And obviously the formal means of education, it means universities, colleges, schools, all these are formal ways of education. And in fact, I would like to tell that whatever is non-formal and informal, it is totally trying to change the formal. They want certain changes in the formal system of education. In fact, nobody wants to change himself, but always in the process of changing others. It is the most typical paradox of life. So education is obviously activity-based, interactive, practical, and it is not only theorization of things. It may be influenced by theorization. So third point in it is actual process of educating. It is actively dealing with the factors of reality and experience examined by philosophy. Now, who you look into. In the previous years, or maybe recently, your institution might have gone across the process of NAC accreditation. This word has changed the educational scenario a lot. Whatever is happening in the Western worlds, obviously it changes India very fast, or try to changes India very fast. Still, India does not change the way or at the pace the people are expecting, because imitation is not education indeed. Education has to be activity based. In the NAC accreditation process, you might have focused on 2 or 3 words like vision, mission, and objectives. These vision, mission, and objectives are ultimately related with the philosophy. And this vision, mission, and objective cannot be described without focusing on the philosophy, without focusing on the factors of reality and experiences of development of that institution, without reality and experience of the locality of that institution or that nation or that culture. Therefore, whatever is the educational vision, whatever is the educational mission, whatever are the objectives of education, they have to be influenced by the philosophy of philosophy. And without that cross examination of your own culture, of your own institution, the very intricacies of your institution, you cannot visualize the vision, mission, and objective of education. Hence, basically, here philosophy is guiding education. Uh, Crystal clear way, in the crystal clear way, it has been mentioned here that various types of teaching, various types of programs, various types of administrative organization, various types of curricula or courses, whatever you are running, the way you are running the courses, the way you are evaluating your courses, and the way you are giving outputs or you are certifying things, it is all based on a philosophy. It means philosophy is the sole guiding factor of education. And hence, it can be said that philosophy in education, philosophy, you can look at this fourth slide. Philosophy is the general theory of education, and education is the practice of philosophy. Philosophy is the general theory of education, and education is the practice of philosophy. Whatever you philosophize, you want to teach others. You want to change others accordingly. Therefore, education is the practice of philosophy. So, philosophy is the basic foundation of education. It has also been said that while philosophy is a guide to educational practice, education as a field of investigation yields certain data. This is very significant. Rather, uh, to reshape your thinking or to concretize your philosophy time and again, this is very important. Education is a field of investigation which yields certain data as a basis for philosophic judgments. You remember the first slide, point second, where you said that it is theoretical and speculative. And thereafter you said that you try to ask questions, you try to explore and work out the judgments. But from where you get the data? The data you are getting from the formal, non-formal, and informal systems of life around you. And these educational institutions, or all education, all courses, all interactions with variety of people going on in the institutions, outside institutions, they yield certain data. And this data can be utilized for making philosophical judgments. So it has been said here, it is also by Rupert Sillars that thought merges into action and action emerges out of thought. Whatever you think, it will lead to action. Whether you think or think that you will not lead to, but you lead yourself to action based on your thought. And again, the action emerges out of thought. So these are reciprocal, and therefore we can also say that philosophy, although philosophy is the foundation of education, but education has all potential to supply data for exploration, for thinking, to philosophy, and make judgment, to theorize and to concretize things holistically once again. In India, particularly, if you look at the Indian philosophical traditions, India is one of the most, rather you can say, or the oldest philosophy, has oldest philosophies of the world. And in India, we already believe it, and we also experience that uh, our civilization is said to be more than 5,000 years old. So in Indian philosophical traditions, it refers to the set of beliefs, ideas, ideals, and practices about the nature of reality, truth, and value. In fact, this reality, truth, and value we'll just talk in the next slide. These are the three different areas of philosophy or different branches of fields of philosophy or problems of philosophy. But if you think from the Indian perspective, you'll find that all your beliefs, all your ideas, all your ideals, all your practices, these all lead to the perception of nature of reality. And these are closely interrelated to develop your philosophy. And India, obviously, all of us are being shaped by this, whether we know or we do not know, but it is shaping our lives and our practices in variety of ways. It has been shaping since thousands of years. Now there are three branches or three fields of philosophy. These are also well heard or well known by most of you. One is reality, जिसको आप कहते हैं यथार्थ, and this is termed as metaphysics. Metaphysics is basically the study of reality. It is the study of reality about existence of world, existence of universe, or whatever basic questions about the life, like what is life, how it has emerged, how this universe has emerged, how the stars have emerged, how the rivers have emerged. Anything which you think about life and its related beings, this is all related with the problem of reality, and it is part of metaphysics. And in fact, every human being is involved in this process. He perceives and he questions, he gets answers, and he acts accordingly. There is another term, that is knowledge. Knowledge, that is epistemology. It is related with epistemology. Whatever you question, you have to work out in a certain way to find answers. And the ways to explore that reality, they are in fact related to this area, that is knowledge. So epistemology is the basically uh, the way you explore the reality, the path through which you explore the reality. And in the overall process, you also find that you are having certain values in life. You may be forced to have values in life, or you may choose to have values in life. But there are values. Values means you give significance to certain things in life. Whatever is useful for you, whatever has more utility for you, you say that it is valuable for you. Maybe you are not able to perceive the proper utility of a thing, but that utility may be temporal, but that temporal part of that utility will guide your choice and will force you to choose values and act according to those values. So actually, axiology is the uh, science, or you can say the branch of philosophy which explores values and the place of values in our life. So these are basically three different problems or fields of philosophy which are perceived by all disciplines or all people around the world. Now, if there are any questions regarding this philosophy, education, or branches of philosophy, you are most welcome to ask any one or two questions. Any of the participants?
Sir, participants are not having access to audio,
Okay, okay,
so
okay,
they
all
can
right.
they can put question in chat box only.
Okay, okay, okay. So there is no audio access to that, no?
Actually, sir, problem is sometime some sound is coming that creates some problem. Like from my side,
Yes,
some
yes,
sound may
yes,
be coming
yes.
right now.
Yes, 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 yes.
So if any question participants, yeah, just put in chat box. Sir will be responding those things.
Mhm.
Or otherwise, sir, you can continue, and towards end you can take a ball.
All right, I will look into both things. All right. Uh, I will look both sides. There are things we can take at the end. All right. We'll be looking to other aspect. That is problems or fields of philosophy we have just asked. Now, there are concerns of philosophy or nature of self. In fact, philosophy is concerned with the nature of self. Self means how do you perceive the reality. Now, there are three basic ways of looking at the reality. And these three basic ways have been governing all thought patterns across the world, whether east or west. But everywhere, these patterns have forced people to think and act accordingly. Now, number one is self is physical. We can also say that if you think that self is physical, आप इसको और दूसरे सरल तरीके से कह सकते हैं कि यदि आपकी आत्मा का स्वरूप जो है भौतिक है, तो इस भौतिक शरीर में हम ये मानते हैं कि ये शरीर ही सत्य है. That is the biological being, a biological unit, or the naturally existing your biological self, that is the reality. And we have to do everything according to perception of this biological reality. So every thought and every action will be limited to this biological reality. And you'll find that the repercussions are also limited to biological realities. Now, there is another thing, that is self is social. If you say that human beings are social units, that people's or your students are little pieces of society, then you will perceive them segregatedly as different units of society. And for you, society will override the individual traits or individual realities of life. And accordingly, as we said in the earlier one, that is for biological approach to life, here also the social approach will supersede all other needs of humans, and its repercussions will also be there. There are various pockets of the world where you also saw the repercussion of this perception of life. Now, there is next, that is self is spiritual. Here, you can also say that self is divine, or divinity is the prime thing, where you find that peoples or students are taken as the spiritual units of life, and according to their spiritual needs, we guide our thought, we plan our actions, and we proceed accordingly. So self is physical, self is social, and self is spiritual. This has been basic of, or this has also been the basis of all types of philosophies in the West and in the East as well. Now, these can be said as the concerns of philosophy. Now, if you look at philosophy and disciplines, although you practice a philosophy, everyone, as I said, is ought to practice a philosophy, but sometimes people are quite, I can say, they are not able to think clearly, and they say that my discipline is devoid of philosophy. I am not concerned about the philosophy. I am not very much worried about the philosophy. But in fact, whether you are worried or not, philosophy will always intervene in your discipline, your subject. Here, if we look at science, the job of science is to seek knowledge of facts, discover knowledge of facts through the instruments like observation and experimentations and description. Observation, experimentation, and descriptions. These are the ways of looking at the reality. and exploring the reality. Here, it is significant to point out that the outlook of a scientist is partial and detailed. Partial and detailed. Why this term partial and detailed? Partial and detailed because you are selecting a part of a big thing. A part of a big thing is being explored by you thoroughly, in detail, and then you are reaching a conclusion. But that is not the holistic reality of that part. That part is also part of a larger part. Maybe both are interrelated, maybe both are influencing, or maybe both are guided by some other factor. But this perception of scientist is sometimes taken as complete. And this, if taken as complete perception, it creates problems in life, in the system of education, in the way of handling things. Therefore, it is a problem that way. But science enables and helps us to work out the reality of things in practical ways, in experimental ways, and in a detailed manner. Now, here, if you link philosophy with science, you'll find that philosophy seeks ultimate knowledge through interpretations. Now, whatever facts are deciphered by science cannot be set aside by a philosopher. A philosopher considers those facts in working out the reality, in working out the holistic reality. A philosopher cannot negate those facts blindly. He has to consider those facts. So, philosophy seeks ultimate knowledge through interpretations, explanations of ultimate relations, and meaning of facts for life. How that fact is useful or life. The discovery is part of a scientist, but how that discovery is going to affect life, influence life, that is part of a philosopher. So, outlook of a philosopher about the reality of the thing is total and comprehensive. Similarly, if you look at the art and the artists, an artist's chief task is the actual expression of beauty. If you look at the musician, you look at the painter or other types of artists, or even all other subjects, then their purpose is the actual expression of beauty. And philosopher's chief task is to parallel the experience of beauty with an intellectual understanding of its nature. What is the nature of that beauty? That is holistically worked out by the philosopher. And most important thing here is an artist must be free from self-consciousness in his interpretations, because he is the basic creator of that particular expression. So he should be free from self-consciousness in his interpretation, then only he can express the thing. Whereas the philosopher is highly conscious in interpreting things, in expressing things. And therefore, this consciousness of philosopher is important in interpretation of the beauty and concluding about that aspect. Similarly, we can also work about education as a discipline, just we worked out earlier, or religion as religion and its relationship with life, and philosophy, or philosophy and its relationship with religion, and so on. Now, here there are philosophical traditions and their role in education, because we are talking about foundations of education. So philosophical traditions and their role in education, there are 4 major Western philosophies, and they have been named here only. We are not going into details of these philosophies. This first of these is idealism, जिसको आप कहते हैं कि आदर्शवाद. आदर्शवाद जो है, ये वेस्टर्न फिलॉसफीज में सबसे पुराने फिलॉसफीज के अंतर्गत आता है. इट इज वन ऑफ द ओल्डेस्ट फिलॉसफीज. तो इसके अंतर्गत आइडिया इज द सुप्रीम. आपके विचार जो हैं वही सुप्रीम है, and it is basically based on considering individual in the form of a spirit. People is conceived as a spirit. So this is idealism. Similarly, there is realism. Realism को आप यथार्थवाद भी कहते हैं, and this is related with experimentation also. And then third is naturalism, जिसको आप प्रकृतिवाद कहते हैं. It means it is basically considering people as a physical unit or a biological unit. And similarly, there is pragmatism. Pragmatism जिसको आप प्रयोजनवाद कहते हैं या व्यवहारवाद कहते हैं. तो प्रयोजनवाद या व्यवहारवाद जो है वह आधुनिक जीवन से संबंधित है. और basically this is more focused on American way of life, and because American thinkers in the beginning like John Dewey and others were involved in this. So it has influenced America, and throughout the world it has influences. Then there are other philosophies also like existentialism or language analysis, but they are all offshoots, or they are all different ways of interpretation in the modern ways. So these are some Western philosophies, and they are more talked, more worked in previously in the developed and developing countries also. But here I will also be focusing a little bit more on Indian philosophical traditions, or like you can say the philosophical foundations of Indian education also. I would like to just touch it so that people are able to think and integrate these things. So Indian philosophical traditions, they have been dealt here, like in the period of Vedas, then you say Vedic period, Jainism and Buddhism, the ages of epics and Purans, and the period of darshans. These six philosophies, Nyaya, Vaisesik, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta, they all constitute this Vedic, Jainism, Buddhism, then Nyaya, Vaisesik, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. All these constitute the Indian philosophical traditions. We can say an integration of all these in Indian philosophical traditions. And basically, the basic tenets of all these emerge from Vedas, then Jainism, Buddhism, and darshans only. Now, this is a question for all time. It was a question earlier, it is also today, and it is the basic question of philosophy. That is, what kind of universe are we living in? In fact, every teacher should discuss these things in some way or other, and every student should also think on these questions in some way or other with respect to his or her disciplines, and try to integrate with his disciplinary and subject knowledge. You can see here what kind of universe are we living in, and practically what kind of life is worth living in this universe. These are the two questions which are related with philosophy and education. Number one is the question of philosophy. What kind of universe are we living in? And number two is what kind of life is worth living in this universe. This task is done by education. So these two basic questions have been practically given supreme importance in education in India, and it is practical side of teaching in India also. It has been practical side of teaching in India also. Now here, if you look at philosophy or darshan from Indian perspective, philosophy to our ancestors was not just a means of satisfying samasya. In modern times, we have simply categorized it as a problem, or questions are problems for us. But in fact, in the Indian thought, it is slightly different. It is not simply an intellectual doubt, but it is related with the finding the right type of living, right way of living. And the basic aim of every question was to discover a way to come out of misery and to find a practical solution to the life so that we can come out of misery for a longer time. So its insistence was on prayojana. The meaning of prayojana is practical utility. So questioning was not the only focus, but the practical utility. It was also task of philosophy. Philosophy in India was in practice integrating both. It was integrally including education in it. There was no philosophy without education. And in the beginning also we talked that all questions of education are basically leading to the questions of philosophy, are giving data for the questions of philosophy, or finding answers to the questions of philosophy. In India, the term darshan is basically integration of these 2 points. One is intellectual doubt and another is practical utility. So darshan was a means of finding practical utility of various issues in life. And therefore, all the values which came out of this, all the thoughts which came out of this, they led to a good life. So this is the essence of Indian philosophical tradition, that philosophy and education cannot be separated. They are integral to each other. Darshan is basically involving these two things. And there are some values, whatever may be different types of thoughts, but these have to be integrated in life, in group life, in individuals' life. And these terms are key to the enable an individual to lead a good life for him in whatever times he is living. Now, this one value was Purusharth. The Purusharth, it was having the topmost gradation, rather it is having the topmost gradation, or there are 4 values related in it, that is Arth, Kam, Dharma, and Moksha. And they have been designated as lower order Purusharth and higher order Purusharth. You will find that all deeds of an individual in life are for fulfillment of desires. And this satisfaction of desires, that is all related with calm or pleasure. So it is an intrinsic value, for it is desired for everybody for its own sake. And this cannot be denied by anyone. But for fulfillment of these values, this earth, dharma, and moksha are very important. If you want to fulfill your desires, it also requires the economic aspect. Without certain economic strength, you cannot fulfill any of your desires. So earth was an instrumental value. It used to fulfill your variety of needs of life, and this value was designated as earth in Purusharth. And only fulfillment of all your desires through gaining of money is not the ultimate for life. But to what extent these desires should be fulfilled, in what ways these desires should be fulfilled, and for whom, with what basic intent these desires are to be fulfilled, all this has to be handled with this term, the dharma. It cannot be compared with religion. Religion is not something which is synonymous of dharma. Dharma is a trait which is basically, you can say, it is imbibed by the individual based on his own thoughts for welfare of himself. And you might have heard a slok previously. This slok is like this: Dhriti Chama Damo Asteyam Socham Indri Nigraha Dheer Vidya Satyam Krodho Dasakam Dharma Lakshanam. This is a slok by Yagyavalak, and these 10 qualities, these are the qualities of a dharmic person, a person who is not having vidya, who is not having patience, who is not wise, who is not shamasil, which is who is not kind enough. He cannot be, or she cannot be, a dharmic person. So in life, this satisfaction of pleasures was not the sole thing, but development of these values in life along with satisfaction of your desires was the sole thing. And if you are doing all these things, then only you can liberate yourself in life. Means that is, there is a term for liberation, that was moksha. In different types of philosophies, moksha have been perceived in different ways, but the ultimate motive of this moksha is liberation from the bondages of life, the narrowness of thought and practices in life. If you have been able to come out of these narrowness, then you can be said to be uh, a person having मोक्ष. और इसलिए इसमें एक नया टर्म भी प्रचलन में आया, जीवन मुक्त, जो कि ये कहा गया कि आप मोक्ष प्राप्त इस जीवन में ही कर सकते हैं, ये जरूरी नहीं है कि उसके लिए आप अगले जीवन में जाएं. If you imbibe these qualities in life, and if you want to lead yourself out of various types of narrowness, then you can be liberated in this life also. And therefore, these earth and calm, they were designated as lower order purusharth, and dharma and moksha, they have been designated as higher order purusharth. Even the moksha has been termed as param purusharth. Param purusharth has been termed for moksha, and this is basically related with good life. These four values of purusharth in Indian philosophical traditions, these are basically related with good life. If you want to lead a good life, it is the value of dharma which enables you to lead a good life. Without that understanding, you cannot lead a good life, because it enables your intellect to discriminate between the good and bad. Whatever is worth imbibing for you, that is good, and whatever is uh, to be left out by you, that is bad. So this dharma enables an individual to discriminate, and the moksha enables an individual. Dharma, the highest order of dharma is moksha, that is to liberating yourself from narrowness and to involving the spiritual bliss. And therefore, this term moksha was designated as param purusharth. So the central point of purusharth doctrine or in philosophy is that man ought to distinguish between the lower and higher values of life and constantly pursue the higher ones. They should be pursued only as a means to realization of a higher value. Therefore, this purusharth is very important. In summary, we can say that these are purusharth in the Indian tradition are the values which human beings seek either for their own sake or as a means to the achievement of a further end. Dharma and moksha, being the spiritual values, are higher than the physical values of earth and karma, earth and calm in Indian tradition. Now, this dharma can also be described separately from purusharth. Till now, you were thinking it from the point of view of purusharth. Literally, dharma can be said that which holds a thing and maintain in its being. If you hold and something, and if it is not helping you to enable your being, then that is in fact not your dharma. Whatever you hold in life, that should enable your good being, your good living, your good life. And if it is not enabling you to for that, then it is not dharma. So every form of life, every group of man have their dharma, and which is the law of the being. The ethical ideal of dharma found its social application in ancient India and in the concept of ashram dharma and varnashram dharma. These two terms, ashram dharma and varnashram dharma, they have been leading the Indian life or Indian social life since uh, past several thousands of years. Then these two terms can be described here all, ashram dharma and varnashram dharma. Ashram dharma refers to the obligations and duties appropriate to the different stages of life. And varnashram dharma refers to the obligations and duties associated with one's varna. And dharma is an all-pervasive moral value. It refers to virtuous action. It means thinking good and doing good. Adharma is basically considered as vice. Whatever is harmful, whatever is negative, that is adharma. The ideal of dharma found its social application in the concept of these two terms. So now coming to the another doctrine in Indian philosophy, that is doctrine of karma. This karma is one of the most fundamental and unique doctrines of Indian philosophy. And belief in karma has always had a profound influence on the life of the people. Karma can be broadly defined as the law of cause and effect applied to the moral life of man. The law of cause and effect, whatever you do, it affects you. Whatever you think, it affects you. So your thinking affects you, your doing affects you. Your thinking affects your actions affect yourself. So this is the law of karma. You cannot be devoid of this law. Everything happens in the moral realm governed by the law of the karma. According to law of the karma, the right action inevitably produces a good consequence, and in the same way, a wrong action produces a bad one. And they create merits and demerits in our life. They are termed as merits. These merits are termed as punya, and these demerits are termed as pap. So performance of a good action, that signifies dharma. This good action is a virtue. Good action is a virtue. So virtue in the soul produces a merit, and violation of a duty or commission of a forbidden action, it implies adharma. That is termed as vice. So a forbidden action should not be performed by an individual in personal or social life because it produces a demerit in his life and gives wrong consequences. So virtue and merit produce happiness in life. The ultimate aim of life is bliss, happiness, pleasure. So virtue and merit, if you are practicing it, it produces happiness. And vice and demerit, they lead to miseries in life. So merit and demerit are adrisht. They are not seen. They are not always visible forces, but they mature in the course of time and they bear fruits either in this life or, as per our Indian belief, in a future life. But they are bound to be with you in all forms. So this was another concept in the Indian philosophical thought, and it has been practiced in our social and cultural life since thousands of years, and it is bearing its impact on our society also. Similarly, this concept of moksha is also dealt separately than purusharth. It is an absolute value. It means it should be practiced for itself. You said that earth was an instrumental value because earth was being practiced to achieve something else. But moksha is an absolute value. It has never become means to any other thing. It is fruitful in itself. So therefore, it is an eternal value, and uh, it is always useful for human beings in for achievement of bliss. Now, moksha is the supreme end of life, but it involves practice of all these things. There are these terms which have been practiced, that is vairagya, niskam karm or dhyan, and jivan mukt. Now, what is vairagya? Vairagya is basically related with detachment. Detachment with a certain thing. That is vairagya. If you are detached with a wrong thing, then you are able to do good. But if you are attached to a wrong thing, you are going to be affected by it, and your life is going to be affected by it. Niskam kar means one should not care for fruits of his actions in immediate life. If you do a good thing without the thought that what benefit it is going to cause you immediately, you are obviously going to be benefited by this task. It is going to be aggregated by you, and it is going to be useful for you. Sometimes you might have experienced that if you are always focusing on the benefits of doing something, then you are not able to indulge in good deeds, and that way it detracts you. So this concentration on the right thought and conceiving what is right is very important in life. This dhyan or concentration, it means the ability of an individual to focus on what is right at the point of time he desires. That is very important. Then life of one who has attained vairagya, nishkam karma, dhyan, it is leading the individual to a free life, a blissful life, and such person is jivan mukh, and he is characterized by universal love and selfless action. Now, there is another value, that is unity of all beings, or unity of life. Recently, you have also heard one slogan by our Prime Minister, that one word is very important. One word, one India, and one common type of quality life is required for everyone. So, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it has been our message. So unity of all life and being is very important. It has been single principle that all beings are spiritual and all beings are united with each other, and hence the Upanishadic methods, this method, that is ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. The reality is one, but several people may say it by different names. Such type of thought is the crux of Indian thought, and it should be appreciated that way. Similarly, the tolerance, जिसको आप सहिष्णुता भी कहते हैं, this is another value which has come to Indians by inheritance and running in the Indian spirit. So live and let live. Geo or Gene do. Do not hurt anybody. That has been the message of Indian philosophy, and it should be the practice for education also. Therefore, if you talk of relevance of tradition to modern India, then you should always think on these values: karma, purusharth, dharma, moksha, and integrate it in all types of teaching and activities in various forms, so that people are able to perceive its real importance and practice it in their day-to-day life. So this was a very brief overview about the link of philosophy in education, and basically I tried to focus on partly on the philosophy, partly on education, and uh, on some important philosophical values in India, Indian philosophical traditions, which can help make our educational institutions and practices good. That's why in brief, I included these terms. So there are some queries. Here is a one question by, I think,
Biplav.
Biplav Das. He has asked this question to everyone. Where are the fundamental differences and similarity between Indian philosophy and Western philosophy? It is a very good question, but it has to be explored by yourself. I just oriented you on the two things. There are four basic branches of Western philosophies. These four basic branches are, that is, idealism, realism, naturalism, and pragmatism. These are the four basic branches. And these branches have led to the different types of thoughts in West also. And based on these, there have been variety of practices which have emerged in the West also. Even if you look at the philosophical thoughts, then you'll find that variety of values have been also governed by the Christianity. Variety of values have been also governed by the Islamic thought. Variety of values have been always governed by the Sanatan values in the East. So, working out similarities, if you find all through, you'll find that in all cultures, in all philosophies, the single thought was that welfare of all beings of the universe. Welfare of all beings of the universe has been the first thought. And the differences have emerged in different thoughts and practices on the basis of three ways of thinking. When somebody says that, or if any branch of philosophy says that reality is physical, and he says that this life is the only real life, and what you are doing at this moment is the only real thing, then it has led to variety of problems. Similarly, if somebody has said that if this life is basically spiritual, then this spiritual life has helped you to live a good life, to lead a good life, to help other, cooperate other, be tolerant, and develop a good life for all in all times to come. And you are always working for a better good, and you are not stagnating yourself. And in the third perception, when you say that the person is considering himself or herself as socius, as a unit of society, as if society can do everything for you, you look at the Marxian thought. What happened in the West? How it has led Russia, and what type of wars and conflicts have emerged over there. So you'll find that these are different ways of perceptions, and it has not been directed to anybody in what way you want to perceive the reality and in what way you want to proceed with reality. Ultimately, there are, if you think about philosophy, philosophy is a directive doctrine or liberal thought. What is that? Sometimes it is a directive doctrine, but all the times it is a liberal thought, because it is always ready to change with you or with the groups for a better choice. So perception of reality is totally an individual matter. If you are able to perceive reality for your goodness, then you are able to practice reality, that practical thought for in your educational ventures, in your life, and you are able to achieve good life. You cannot set any fixed standards as this is the fixed good or this is the fixed bad. We can simply identify what is good in different types of philosophies and how it can shape our educational life and educational practices, and accordingly we can proceed further. Then there is another question by Barnali Thakuria: how one can achieve the concept of moksha through the way of knowledge? It has been already answered earlier, there were three things mentioned in the slide. You find that vairagya, niskam karma, and ability to concentrate. If you are having these abilities in yourself, and what is niskam karma? What is niskam karma, and what is concentration? What is meditation, and how they can be differentiated? This has to be understood through this knowledge only. It has been said in Indian tradition that Jnanam Manujasya Tritiya Netram. Knowledge is human being's third eye. It means through it only you are able to discriminate and know what is right for you, what is attachment and detachment for you, where you have to attach, where you have to detach, and develop vairagya in life. And what is the selfless action? What is the niskam karma? How you don't involve and still you work for the good. So if you are able to work on these, think on these, and develop your own knowledge, then only you can proceed to our moksha or liberation in this life only. There are no other ways to proceed towards liberation or moksha. That is the answer. Uh,
Thank you, sir. I think no more question. Anyone else is having any question? No. So thank you, sir, for a very interesting topic, a very interesting deliberation on found a philosophical foundation. It was really very interesting. Since long, I have not heard any such lecture on philosophy. So that has given me an opportunity to think of this and then again revise something and think of this. Actually, philosophy, I think, what we need to visualize in ourselves, close our. It is a thing we can read with the closed eyes. We have to
right,
think within ourselves.
right.
So that is the time now for all the participants today. This is the last session also. So now we are having time to relax with our closed eyes and think of all these things.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on this.
Thank you, Professor Bhartendu. Thanks to you in particular, as well as the director of the HRDC and all the participants also for listening with patience and coming out with at least 2-3 questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
So, dear participants, this is the end of our today's talk. All 4 talks are over. So now we'll meet again tomorrow morning. And tomorrow we are going to have 4 more sessions. First session will be from Professor Arun Kumar. He is from Department of Commerce and Business Administration, Allahabad University. And he will be talking on teaching in VUCA environment, volatile, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, this environment. And second session will be from Professor S.K. Mehta, his from Department of Botany, Mizoram University, and he will be talking on ethics in research. Then third session will be on topic building community leader, and the speaker is Professor Lal Niloma from Department of Extension Education, Mizoram University. And the fourth and last session for tomorrow will be from Professor Sweta Prasad. He is from Department of Sociology, Banaras University, and he will be talking on narratives as a method of feminist inquiry. So these will be the 4 sessions for tomorrow. So that's all for today, and see you all tomorrow morning. Good night and have a nice stay. Thank you.